how much should you charge? That's right, we're jumping straight in. The lowest I've seen an application pay is $30 per video. And then the highest that I've seen people earning from a video can be up to $300. Keep in mind, you're not selling your audience. That's a whole different ballpark, like we explained in the first video. That's doing an influencer deal. Inside this cost, the only things you should factor: the video, how it's being used, and any add-ons. If you do have an audience, this pricing does not apply to you, because the brand you have built, the audience you have built, also has a value. So this is only based off of UGC creators that do not have a following and that are sending these creatives, so the video and the photo, to be posted on the brand's channels, not their own. Now, the most important part of pricing, grab your drinks because it's about to get real good, is to understand the time spent. For this, I recommend using an application like Toggle. It's completely free to track your time. Now, the biggest mistake, which I should probably do a full video on really big mistakes, is that creators think the only time they're calculating is the time that they've spent filming. And that's not what you should be tracking. You need to track the search for the brands, the reaching out, the emails, the negotiating, the back and forth, the invoicing, the filming the content, putting it together, and delivering it. All this time goes into how you set your price. If you're someone that can do it a lot quicker, well, obviously charge a little bit less. If you're someone that's experienced and can get all this down, let's say in 3 hours, well, obviously that cost is gonna be very different than somebody maybe starting out who takes 10 hours to do the full thing from start to finish. 10 hours of work for $100. If you calculate it, it's basically $10 an hour. That's basically how you have to backwards track it in order to determine your price. Your price is going to be very different from my price, from everybody else's price watching on here. But the biggest thing that you need to know is to not go based off of what you see. Just because you see that an application is giving you $30 per video doesn't mean that's what you should lower your price to. The reason why these applications can lower their price so much is because they're working in volume. Think about something like Walmart, Costco. These business models are based off of high quantity. That means the bigger and the more clients they get, well, obviously they can charge less and less per video and therefore pay less to the creator, but they're facilitating thousands and thousands and thousands of deals per day. For you, it's completely different. That's why you shouldn't base your price off of everything that you see online. Think about it this way. What happens when a new player enters the business field and wants to make their price lower and lower so that more people pick them instead of the other business players? That person lowered the standard so much that the industry begins thinking that that's the set price in which people can operate at, and then the whole industry starts bouncing and is affected because of this low ball player. Competing on price is not the way to go because there's literally no way to win. If you want to make more and that's your justification for let me charge less so I get more clients, instead make it this way. You want to charge more, therefore add more value. Add more things that the client can get. Add in photos, add in add-ons, add text, add animations, add sound effects. You can even make bundles. You are 100% better off going high than starting to price lower and lower. And guys, this is a conversation I love having, so I wanna hear your thoughts in the comments down below. To accept payments, there's so many different ways. Remember in the previous video, I recommended having your portfolio on MailerLite because through this software, you could create a landing page, even a website, and have a button to accept payments directly. Now, the way you would do this is by connecting it to an account on Stripe, which is completely free to have, and it's like the go-to to use for accepting payments online. If you want other options, you can also have a button link it directly to your PayPal. You can also accept payments through PayPal, even something like Square. Now, I know there's a ton of things I'm recommending, so I'm going to link it all down below in the UGC toolkit so you have everything in one place. This is very important. Listen up. As I also mentioned in the first video, everything you do, you have to keep it professional. You are now a business offering a service. That is how you should see yourself, and that is how you should always present yourself. If you are making more than $1,000, which anyone watching right now can definitely make more than $1,000 through UGC, then you need to have these things in place. Now, I can only speak for inside the US because that's what I know of. For any other country, do your research. Make sure you know exactly what you need to have in place. Inside the US, you should definitely have a business bank if you are getting more than $1,000 from a side hustle from creating this style of content. I 100% hands down recommend Relay Bank. It's a completely free bank that you can use to accept and collect your payment. In any other country, do your research, get your information down so you know exactly what you need to do. Then we move on to the legal stuff, which happens either before or at the same time of invoicing. Make sure legal stuff is covered before you accept any payments and before you commit to creating any style of content. Do not ever send a video before receiving payment. That is something super important. Unless the only exception would basically be if you are sending an example, which I mentioned in the previous video. And if you don't have examples, number one, create a video with anything that you have around your house. Or number two, if it is a brand that you feel very passionate about, that you really want to work with them long term, you can always negotiate and say, hey, why don't I do a free sample for you? But obviously make sure that they know what your rates are. So it's basically like you're giving them a sample trial. Other than that, I've never ever send a video before or send a video to them without them having already made their payment. In your legal contract agreement, whatever you want to call it, these are the important things that you have to make sure that you decide on and that you include to make sure that you and the brand, both parties, are very clear on what's going to be included with this piece of content. Number one, get clear on where this piece of content is going to be used. Usually for UGC content, it's used on social, websites, ads, and newsletter campaign. Draw a clear line on what you accept, what you won't accept, but this at the end of the day is totally up to you. Keep in mind, if you do have an audience, this is completely different. If you have an audience, you would be charging way different if they are running their ads because obviously they're using the brand value that you've already built. So keep this in mind. Include when the payment has to be made, what they're getting, when they're getting it, and I'll definitely be including a lot more pointers down below in the UGC toolkit because there's a lot more that goes into it, but you do really want to make sure that you get really clear on those three things. What comes next after they've signed or agreed to the contract and made at least 50% of the payment? Well, it's time to get to the filming. And that's exactly what I'll be covering inside the next video, the locations, how to film, the process, the editing, what apps to use. So don't forget to drop your questions down below. Your questions are what guides me to know what exactly to put into the next video. So if anything is on your mind, if you're wondering about anything, drop that question down below. And if you've been loving this UGC video series, go ahead and comment UGC Creator down below, and I'll see you right back here on this same exact channel next time. Bye bye. P.S. Don't forget to grab the toolkit.